I have a confession to make. I was the one Ian mentioned a few weeks back who said that he needed to go home and kill myself after his sermon. I was joking, of course, but the sentiment was real. He just described all the things that plague our world, how we were selling our future for immediate gratification and pleasure, how our leaders were devils in disguise, how the system was rigged to conspire against our best interests. While intellectually I understood and agreed with his proposition, emotionally I was distraught. How could he leave me hanging like this? And what was I supposed to do? My greatest concern was that the challenges described would require courage from me, and I don't consider myself someone who's all that courageous. I've never been one to stand up to the man. When faced with differing views, I'm quick to see both sides and give everyone benefit of the doubt. I don't want to be contrary. I want to be liked. The road to finding my courage hasn't been easy. What actually is courage? And how does one acquire it? If I look to others for inspiration, I find myself left lacking. I have many friends who believe steadfastly in a political point of view. They will do whatever it takes to defend their stance. I admire their singleness of purpose, and their ability to jealously guard a line in the sand seems courageous to me. My line is hardly straight. It's dotted at best, and more like an ever-changing squiggle which bends to agree with whomever I'm with. In my first job in social work, I worked with an accomplished and seemingly courageous man. He would take on anyone and everyone to further the objective of assisting the poor and disenfranchised. However, he left a trail of destruction behind him, burning bridges and angering allies. Surely this wasn't what it took to be courageous, right? My father's life seemed potentially instructive, as he had proven his courage in the ultimate theater. He went to war in his late teens and was recognized with a military cross for saving members of his squad when under fire in Belgium. And yet he was a broken man from the experience. So this example was nuanced and unhelpful. In my first undergraduate degree, I connected with a group of people who were starting a social justice activist organization on campus called QPIRG, Quebec Public Interest Research Group. I joined QPIRG because friends of mine were involved, but after a while, my eyes were opened to the various forms of injustice and possible ways to combat them. My peers were almost exclusively dyed-in-the-wool activists who had either grown up in houses dedicated to the cause or had become involved in high school. Not me. I'd been a resolute social butterfly, always looking for the next welcoming arms and good time. In QPIRG, I realized that I needed to build some courage and worry less about being liked and more about figuring out what I believed in. Working with an external organizer, we had to lobby members of the McGill Senate to allow for a fee increase to fund the group. In a meeting with the Dean of Students, he became increasingly agitated and finally exclaimed, "This is not activism. I was at Penn in the 60s, and I know activism. Get out of my office." I was shocked. On another occasion, we met the Dean of Medicine, whom I knew socially. After the formalities, he turned to me and he said, "What is this horseshit, Andrew? You and your hired gun are just here to cause trouble." Why were these people treating me with disdain? I was a likable person. And where was my courage to defend my group? The realization that there could be a conflict between being liked and doing the work landed hard on me. At Concordia, I saw many examples of courage with student leaders who would take on the university. Many of these young people managed to lead significant groups of their peers out on strike, all the while maintaining working relationships with me as the Dean of Students. This provided me with a dose of courage in meetings with other senior administrators to stand up for the students and lobby for a more diplomatic approach to managing the disruptions. In retrospect, what jumps out at me from these cases and others is that I found courage not in a specific political position, but rather in community with others. At QPERG, we supported each other to successfully secure our fee levy. At Concordia, I found community with student leaders who saw that I supported their actions and began to trust me. In a workshop with the poet David White, it was in a workshop with the poet David White when I finally understood how I could incorporate courage into my life. White explained that the word courage came from the French word cœur, or heart, and that courage, therefore, was the way of the heart. This resonated with me. I found courage when I followed my heart, and when my heart was with people. Rightly or wrongly, I cared about individuals more than their political stances or beliefs. If they were caring and kind, I had their backs. To be honest, I'm still unsure if I have the courage to answer our good minister's call, but I do know that I have a big heart, and maybe I'll find the courage to wield it if I'm in community with others. And I do know that if I follow the way of the heart, I have the best chance of acting courageously in the fight that needs to be waged.